the different buckets of where that money actually goes into and how it might be disappearing in your own business as well. It's not about cutting someone else. It's not about overpricing things. It's about working smarter with what we have. You cannot control what you don't measure. Every bowl of color has a cost. The goal isn't just to fill the chair once. It's to keep that client coming back 4 times. Welcome back, my friends, to the Successful Stylist Academy podcast. I'm your host, Ambrosia Carey, where we talk all things hair industry related to the non-sexy parts of our industry that matter the most: finance, communication, and marketing. Today, we are not going to fall short of any of those conversations. As a matter of fact, the topic of today is all about where the heck does our money go? Like, really, where does our money go? So I'm going to break it down as well as I can for you to feel like you can take these tips and apply it to your own business. Maybe it'll be food for thought. Maybe it'll be some great reminders. But it is something that is probably one of the most common things when I'm talking to salon owners specifically, but also independent stylists who are wanting to make that next step in their career. And they're trying to decide, do I have what it takes? Do I have enough money? Will I have enough cash flow in order to have a sustainable business? And that is my love language, my friend. I love talking about sustainability in a business because I'm 26 years in and I have noticed a curve in the growth trajectory, and I knew I had to take some different steps in my own business patterns and my own business format in order to try to problem solve the ways that our industry is changing and shaping, and how can I still empower others around me in my own community, and how can I still make the similar percentages in order to continue growing myself. If you're booked and you're actually making profit, that is a little bit different than being busier. Busy sometimes could look something like, I have been working on the same client for 4 hours, but if I break it down for my cost to time ratio, I'm actually paying myself minimum wage or maybe even less. So we really want to talk more about profits and how we can have healthy profits, so that way we can make sure that we're still growing. But sometimes your bank account doesn't always reflect what it is that you're doing. And I want you to feel super empowered, because you're definitely not alone in this. And this is not something that I want anyone to feel shame around. And I think there was a moment in my career that I did feel a little bit of shame, and, just the parts of not knowing and the mistakes that I may have made in the past. But sometimes it takes those mistakes in order to learn and to capitalize it and actually start to make gains. And if you're listening to this right now, I'm really hoping that you actually hear some things that can apply to your own business, or in the future when you're actually, carving out what you want your business to look like, you can think about these things and how you can apply it to yourself as well. So we're not going to be running at full speed. We're going to be going in kind of like brackets here. We're going to be talking about the different buckets of where that money actually goes into and how it might be disappearing in your own business as well. Today, we're going to figure out exactly where those go. Think of your business like a waterfall. The faucet's on, the money's coming in, and that is the water that's flowing through that faucet. And the money is being poured into this top tier glass. Like, think of your water glass right now. And the money's going into the glass. And then think of another glass underneath that is flowing through these different glasses, basically. Your cost, your overhead, and that's what's left at the bottom, which is your profit. So rather than thinking of the exact money that you're being exchange, like the money that's being put in your hands, or I guess in your bank account, that's not yet your money. And I think that's where we get it wrong. Sometimes people want to realize the amounts that are being put into that bank account, and they're thinking that I'm crushing it. Oh my gosh, I have 50 grand, 70 grand, 100 grand in my bank account. And they don't realize that that's actually not their money yet. So we're going to break this down in a way that makes it feel a little less overwhelming, and also so that we can create some really healthy margins around where the spending is going, how we can cut back on spending, and actually where we can put some time and attention into things, so that way we have a really healthy, profitable business. Sound good? Every single one of our businesses in the beauty industry, at least, is going to have this number one bucket or cup, so to speak, and that is your direct costs, otherwise known as COGS, the cost of doing your actual work. And the definition of this is your physical cost to perform your service. And that's anything you touch. That's anything you mix, and it's anything that you use on your client. Examples of this could be hair color, developer, lightener. I think you get the picture with that. It can even be like foils, gloves, even your towels, the shampoo that you use, a conditioner, your back bar, cleaning supplies, laundry, credit card processing fees, our least favorite of all evils. And the rule of thumb that I generally like to stay on track with when it comes to this, again, rules are meant to be bent, or they can even be slightly broken, but we need to have rules intact first so that way we can have some benchmarks to go off of. So a very great rule of thumb that I like to go for is aim to keep those around 10 to 12% of your total revenue. If you're spending that 10 to 12% that you're allocated, if you start getting 15% and even higher, like if you're closer to 20%, that's when you kind of get in the danger zone. That is where you have to increase your prices. It's kind of letting you know I'm dipping too much into these costs and I'm not making up for those costs if you start to see that the percentage rising even higher. So there's a little indication for you. Try to keep it around 10 to 12%. Common mistakes that can happen with this is you overorder your color or you let something expire, which I think these days people don't really think about things in those ways. And if you let things build up too much, you might not know exactly what you're accruing. My previous salon, for example, we had a huge storage area. And there were a lot of things back there that were just kind of getting left behind that were not converting back into income. So that's a downside. And yes, you can actually accumulate too much stuff. So I would just say, let your ordering and let your product stay as light as possible. After a while, it's sitting and we're not selling it. So then we're like, well, let's put it on sale. And then we're trying to move the product and we don't happen to put it on sale, or if we don't end up selling all the products, then we finally take that off of inventory completely and then we convert it into back bar. So it's that money was still spent on something and we didn't realize that product into profit. So that is one very, very tiny example. And that is like the less of evils. But those are things that I want you to start thinking about. If you have a salon or if you want to open a salon, is that you don't want to overorder. It's actually not a good thing. Another example is to ignore your price increases from suppliers because suppliers are always increasing their prices. Small example would be that if you're ordering your products and those prices are slowly going up, every single shampoo or conditioner is going up by like $1 to $2, and you're not reflecting that in what you're charging, that again is closing your margin a little bit more. So paying attention to those is really important. And then the last example that I have written down here is not including their product costs in every service pricing. And that's actually a big danger for a lot of people because they don't think about things like that. A lot of stylists will tell me, well, I haven't raised my prices in a long time and I don't feel comfortable with raising my prices as much as you are telling me that I should, that you're encouraging me to. And so instead, I'm going to go ahead and just do $5 increments, which is fine. It's good. I mean, obviously, once again, you want to try to shrink that gap as much as possible because what happens is that costs around us are always rising. If we are not staying on top of that, then essentially what we're doing is we are giving ourselves a demotion every single year. That margin, as it comes to a close, we are hurting our business. We're making it harder for our business to grow and thrive. And we're also feeding ourselves less. We're not making as much money. That's really what it comes down to. It's not about cutting someone else. It's not about overpricing things. It's about working smarter with what we have. One small example that I could give you is there was a salon owner that I was working with about 2 years ago, and she was having a really hard time with budgeting. And I think the reason why is because she had too many services that she was offering and she didn't know what her top tier services were. So she was kind of doing the spray and pray situation where she had a lot of different services. The problem with that is like the more services you offer, number one, you're confusing your client. Number two, when you're not niching in an area where clients are looking for something specific, they're not really sure if you're going to be the best person to go to. Number three, if you have overhead and you're paying stylists or, estheticians or somebody for those services and they're actually not producing, then that can be a huge cost expense on your side of things. And then the last and final four, which is actually what I was just talking about, that if you're purchasing products and more things that are going out from the business just because you want to look busier and you want to look fuller and you want to look like you're offering everything under the sun, it can actually end up damaging and hurting your margins, and you could actually be going backwards or even upside down in your business. So ways that you can fix this: when you're ordering your color, for example, there's a lot of different software systems right now. I'm using Gloss Genius. Gloss Genius actually has something called Gloss Shop, and they partner with a bunch of different different color lines. I mean, I think there's like over 80 of them now. And if I want to order directly through that, what's cool is that it tracks my inventory for me. So I can literally take my phone, scan the barcode. I can say if I want to increase or decrease my inventory. And then if I'm running low on inventory, it sends me a text message saying, hey, you're running low on this. You only have one of these left. And then I click on it. It takes me to the shop. It finds the product directly for me. And all I have to do is put it in my grocery bag and it will send it to me. So that's one of the many things where you can eliminate, and you're just trying to streamline. When people talk about streamlining their business, they're talking about that very thing. How many changes of hands need to happen, or how much time is allocated toward this one thing? How can you shrink down the amount of time that you're spending on it, or the amount of people or income that you're putting out toward others to do this? And if you could do it with a click of a button, if you could do it where it's being tracked with these AI tools being used in it, then will that help you? Vish is an example. Salon Scale is an example. There's a lot of different products out there now. Obviously, you have to have a subscription. You have to pay for all those things in order to have them. And that's why I use Gloss Genius as an example, because it's a booking software system that I'm already paying for. Another thing that you can do is price your services, including your product usage. So one of the things that you could do, and you don't necessarily have to use Vish or Salon Scale for this, so you don't have to divide parts from labor. Not everyone wants that business model. But what you can do is, on average, see how many scoops of lightener you're using for each service. See how much it costs for a scoop of lightener, first of all. And then see on average how much you're using for your color retouches. See what the cost per mil or per gram or whatever your measurement is, just so you get a better idea of it. You just want to make sure that you're not only covering it, but you also have something to put back into the piggy bank so that you can actually go out and order it again. So that's something that it's easy to forget about. And you get busy in the process of the service and the process of getting that client back into the door, or marketing to new clients. And that feels more comfortable to do. But this is a pretty massive leak. This is a really important thing to sit down and do. Is this something you have to do every single week? Absolutely not. That would drive anybody crazy. But I promise you this, if you start doing these on a more regular basis, number one, it's going to take a lot less time. Number two, it's going to feel a lot less overwhelming. And number three, it's kind of like anything else. If you don't use it, you lose it. And this is something that's really important within our business. That what's interesting about it is that we don't have to think any more about emotion when it comes to pricing or services. If we build everything into it, then it tells us exactly what it needs to be. One of my favorite examples is when I'm teaching, I do French hair cutting. And when I teach a French haircut, sometimes I cut the perimeter first and sometimes I cut the layers first. And it really depends on what my goal is. But what I say to people when I'm cutting the layers first and I wait for the perimeter, is that the layers, once I build everything in, it's very obvious. The perimeter shows me what needs to come off afterward. So I like to think of things in the way of the work becomes easier when you've got all the answers filled in, because you've built in your own filtration system. Another thing that you can do to fix, kind of including your product cost into your service pricing, is just to do a quick inventory check monthly. It doesn't take too long. And again, if you do it on a regular enough basis, that will become a little bit easier for you. Now, I'm going to use this again, and this is not in any way sponsored at all. I do absolutely pay for this, but Gloss Genius it has a built-in inventory checker. And what's nice about it is that I can just scan through really quick and just see what am I running low on inventory. As a matter of fact, I have it set where it tells me if I'm running low on something, like I was saying before, and it alerts me. It has a pop-up message. It literally will tell me what I'm running low on. So you don't have to manually do that, but the reason why I say is go through your inventory monthly is because sometimes what you see in person is not going to directly reflect what you may have on your phone or in your processing. So you just want to make sure that everything is kind of buttoned up, especially with the end of the year coming, because we have to pay the taxes on that inventory. So we just want to make sure if we have 5 items of something and only one of the other item, then we might only order the one item And then the 5 items, or let's say we've got even more than that, then we're like, okay, we want to have a promotion that runs around that. So these are just ways that you can kind of help and support your business, but you can also be future thinking about how you can grow. And what's cool about it is that I never once mentioned anything about like psychology or how to talk to your clients about anything or how to raise your prices and how to change things on your website or doing anything that can be directly, congruent to our own emotion. This is all like logical stuff. This removes the emotion from it. And if we're all very highly empathetic, highly emotional creatures as a service provider in this industry, I think this is probably one of the most rare types of businesses where we have a lot of emotion tied to it because we emotionally attach to our clients. We bond with people who sit in our chair. I don't have to tell you that. You know it, you feel it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And being a highly emotional, highly empathetic person, it makes it that much harder to talk about things that have to do with money because money is also tied into our emotion. And when it's sitting in that center of our brain, it can be very uncomfortable depending on the kind of relationship you have with money. And especially when it comes to communicating it with your clients, which we will talk about that in future episodes. And we definitely have talked about that in the past. But right now, I just really want to try to allocate and help you organize where your money's going and how it might be getting tied up and why you're not making as much profit as you think you deserve or feel like you should. I mean, we work really hard. All of us, we work very hard. I don't care if you're 1 year in or if you're 50 years in. And I would argue the one who's 1 year in is working even harder because you're having to do everything all at once. You have to establish clientele, relationships, understand how all this stuff works. But around every single corner, just like I can be a testament to it, already told you 26 years in, I am still having to pivot, learn, shift, adapt, and adopt new ways. So I want you to hear that from me mostly because I'm affirming that you're never going to have it fully figured out. And as soon as you feel like, okay, this is like the perfect place to be, something else is going to happen either in the market or things that we can't control that we are going to have to pivot and we're going to have to recreate and relearn. So behavior, consumerism behavior, and even stylist behavior, everything is shifting and changing all the time. So we have to as well with it. Okay, I'm going to be moving on now. The key message in all of this is that you cannot control what you don't measure. Every bowl of color has a cost. Knowing what that costs will change your bottom line. Absolutely. And the more you understand that, the more freeing it is and the better it feels for you. Okay, now we're going to go on to that second glass, that second cup that I was using as an analogy. And this has to do with something that I don't feel like I hear very often in our industry. And this is called customer acquisition costs, CAC. It's the cost of getting your clients. I think it's hard to measure that one because a lot of time, well, especially these days, most of us are spending a lot of our time on social media. And we keep saying the words, social media is free marketing, it's free marketing. I mean, it is in the sense that you're not having to physically pay for something, but you're paying with your time. So we want to make sure that we're being smart about the way we're spending our time. And is that equaling a client coming in through the door? That part is a little bit harder to track if you don't know how to track it and measure it. So this is what you can spend your time attracting and keeping clients, but your marketing and retention efforts also have to equal or balance, check and balance that, because getting someone in the door and keeping them, those are two totally different things. So I just want to talk about that. Some examples of this, obviously, like you can do paid ads. And as a matter of fact, I talked about this a little while ago, but one of my stylists at my previous salons, she was doing really well at targeting the perfect client. And she really niched down in something very specific. So she was able to target that person. And if that converted and she got website taps from that specific post, then she ran an ad on it. And she started doing that on a regular enough basis. And pretty soon it came to a point that she actually had to pause doing that. She had to pause even taking in new clients just so that she could help filter out some of the people that were, in catch-up mode and they were just like waiting on her wait list to get in. What's really cool about that is that gives you the ultimate freedom. Then you can actually start to broaden what it is that you're offering so you don't have to niche down so much. That could be you increasing your prices. That could be you shrinking down your schedule time. That could be you bringing in an assistant. It's just like that's when opportunity opens up. It can only happen if you're putting energy and intention into making this happen, if you're looking for something that is sustainable. Can someone get lucky and maybe one or two videos go viral and it just happens to capture the audience, the perfect audience that lives in your city, that's looking for your service, that sees you and says, oh my gosh, I love this person, I want to go see them? Yes, that can happen. Is that sustainable, however? No, it is not. So I'm talking about sustainable efforts, and paid ads. Unfortunately, yes, that is the cost of doing business. If I were to spend $5 per day for one full week, and that meant that I didn't have to sit on my phone for 2 hours every single night for 1 week, I would say that was a pretty, I mean, you can't even compare it at that point. It's a no-brainer to me. Because if I could take that one client and I can allocate that money, psychologically, I'm allocating that money toward that ad spend, then I would absolutely choose that. Then I get to buy my time back at home. I get to enjoy my family. I get to enjoy my downtime, or I can put my time into other things that interest me. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. Another thing that you might be spending on your CAC, your customer acquisition costs, would be new clients, discounts, promos, loyalty or referral programs. A lot of people have those. Branding shoots, social media content. I already said that. Online booking software, and your website. That's all stuff that's going to spend your time. It costs money, of course, and it's something that you have to update from time to time. Not all the time, but from time to time. So a rule of thumb with this one, again, going back to the rule of thumb, is keeping this between 5 and 10% of your revenue. That is a very healthy amount or margin to allocate for this. And it is important to allocate some of your spending toward marketing and toward retaining your efforts. Can you spend all of your time just physically you and only you on social media? Absolutely you can, if you can't afford to put it toward anything else. But when you start to get to a point that your retention increases, and I would actually say that when you're getting somewhere between that 75-80% retention range, you should be stepping away from posting so much, and then you should actually be allocating that money toward other things so that you can grow your business in a smarter way and you can take the next step for your business health. I really want to kind of get to a point where you're dividing your business from you as a person, because one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I first became a salon owner, and this was, over 10 years ago, is I never really thought about my exit strategy or how I was going to replace myself if something were to happen to me, or what the end goal was really even. I just wanted to have kick-ass stylists, check, got that. I wanted to have a profitable business, check, got that. I wanted to have a business that continued to grow and was hitting my goals, check, did that. And then it was kind of like repeat, rinse and repeat. And that can feel, you get to a line where you're ready for something else. And don't get me wrong, you're ready for something else that can be something very different. It could be that you want more downtime, you want to shift into a different type of business model. Maybe you want to spend less time behind the chair. Maybe you want to expand your business into other places. Maybe you want to sell your business someday. Maybe you just want to have more downtime. And so that can look very different depending on where you are in your journey and who you are as a person. But mark my word, there's for every single person, we're not immune to it because we're living human beings that there's natural attrition to all of us. And you're going to eventually get to a point where there's got to be some sort of end goal in mind. So having the end goal in mind is absolutely crucial. And that is the reason why I say the rule of thumb is 5 to 10% of your revenue is going toward that customer acquisition cost. How you can measure this is, let's say you're spending $200 on your ads. You gain 5 new clients. So that's $40 per client. And the goal is for each client to bring in at least 4 times that amount in their lifetime value. So common mistakes for this is that you could be focusing on a new client instead of keeping your current ones. That's a really big one, actually, that happens more commonly than I want to hear. I want to hear it go the opposite. And then not tracking where clients are coming from. The other thing that's happening is that there's over-investing happening in the visibility without conversion. And that's why I was using the viral video as an example, because sometimes we're focusing so much on finding our hair besties on, Instagram and TikTok, that we forget about the fact that we actually want to have some videos that convert into business. Is we want to have a healthy business, then you get to have fun on TikTok and Instagram. Then you get to branch into other things. Then you get to have money and you get to have fun, instead of feeling like you have to divide those two together. Ways that you can fix this is tracking your first-time clients versus your repeat clients on a monthly basis. I don't care if you write it by hand, if you have it in your notes, if you're actually using your booking software. Obviously, I swear Glass Genius should be sponsoring this because I keep talking about them, but it's just relevant to what we're talking about. They do an amazing job of compartmentalizing that for me. So I can look at all those reports and I can pull that up and just see how many of my first-time clients versus my repeat clients am I seeing per month. And then you can also look at how you build your simple referral system. Make your referral system as simple as possible, so that way your clients actually don't feel like it's too much work for them, and they know what's in it for them. And the person who's being referred knows what's in it for them too. And that is also going to be a win-win. It's a triple win, really. And that gives back to you as well. So referral programs, it could be anywhere between, taking a percentage off a specific service, or a dollar amount, I should say. I usually say take a dollar amount and not a percentage, because a percentage is a little bit harder to track, because if you're doing a percentage off a single service versus a double, or if it's like you're talking about a blonding service versus a haircut, that is a marginal difference between the percentage that person's getting. So I'd say just take a dollar amount off. Or one of my favorite things is a complimentary treatment. So coming up with your own referral system can be a really great bang for your buck. And it is also something not to be slept on. And guess what? You don't have to lift a finger for that. It's literally embedded into your experience with your clients. I would hope that each one of you are talking about it. And that's where you can have like your visual card or your virtual card, or it can be a QR code even, where you're telling your clients about your referral system. And then double down on what you're actually bringing and what's actually bringing in clients. So if you look over everything, all the efforts that you're doing, and you do realize, in fact, that you're bringing clients in through the door, mostly through social media, heck, put ads behind it. I mean, that's a no-brainer, like I said before. If your efforts are not bringing new clients in the door that you're putting onto social media, back burner it and do at something else, because then it's like you're spinning your wheels and you're going to get frustrated before you can even get ahead. That's something that I see happen, and I don't want that to happen. We need to have a couple of wins in order to feel like, okay, I'm going in a direction that I feel comfortable and safe with, and now I can put myself out there. If you're getting loss after loss after loss, then it's going to start feeling like I can never get ahead, and then that's where those thoughts start creeping up in our minds. All right, so the key message here is that the goal isn't just to fill the chair once, okay? It's to keep that client coming back 4 times. 4 times is the goal. And, the old school thing is that if you could get a client to come back in 3 times, then they are your client. I don't know if I believe that one anymore. I just want you to focus on trying to get them in 4 times, because that means that you have a healthy retention, and that your efforts of acquiring that client is actually working, and it's actually bringing you more money in than when you were spending. Again, when I say spending money, I want you to think about your time as money always. Even if you're sitting on your couch for 2 hours, you're still spending your time on your business. Those are your hours that you're still allocating for your business. So I still want you to think about it in ways of money. All right, we're down to the third cup now. So we've got the top cup, we've got the middle cup, now we've got this third cup, which is your overhead. That is the stinkiest one of all. That one, it can be the biggest drain. And that one actually is the one that can actually end up turning a business upside down. This is where I see the heaviest workhorse. This is where I see the highest percentage of your total revenue going toward. And this is also where I see a lot of businesses that end up having to close, forfeit, go upside down, or they have to take drastic measures in order to regain again. And this one is the ongoing cost of keeping your business open. So physically open, it's your fixed expenses. So this is your rent or renting a booth. This is your utilities, electricity, Wi-Fi, water, your insurance, of course. This could be healthcare if you offer that, booking software, accounting, subscriptions, your cleaning services and supplies, payroll, taxes, and then, of course, benefits if you have employees and you have benefits as well. A rule of thumb when it comes to the amount of money that you want to be spending on your overhead is your target goal is somewhere between 35 and 45% of your total revenue. You really don't want to sneak into that 50% because that's where things can start to topple over a little bit, because then you have to take that away from something else. And that means something else is going to be suffering in your business from it. Or that means that you as the owner don't get to have that reserve money for yourself or for your draw, however you pay yourself. But one of the big things that I want to remind you is that most salon owners, and I am one of them, are also income producers. They're free agents. They're doing hair. They're a hairstylist behind the chair as well. I want you to do hair because it lights you up and you love doing it. I don't want you to do hair because you have to do hair and you are running a salon at the same time. That's not a winning formula. That's a formula for hitting burnout and for honestly building resentment over your very own business or the people around it. So it's very important to separate you from the business. And that is exactly what I do. I give myself a draw every single month. Well, I do it biweekly, and I make sure that everything else is staying in the health of the business. And if there's money left over, then I get to take that money and I get to invest it into something else, or I get to cut myself a bigger check, or I get to, you know what I mean? It gives you more options. And that's what I want for you. This is something that you can do. It just requires a little bit of adjusting and taking a look at what's on the back end. And luckily, like I've already said and promoted a million times, your booking app can do a lot of this for you. Payroll taxes are an SOB, man. It's no fun. So if you have employees, your payroll taxes and benefits will live here for sure. And you will most definitely be in that upper portion. It's almost unavoidable. If you're self-employed, though, this is where you want to plan ahead. Or you want to make sure that you actually have that other tiered bucket where you're putting some money aside. And what I like to do in this situation is I like to put that money in reserves into a high yield savings account so that at least that money's not just sitting there holding and not doing anything. I want to have money building off of that money. So at least I can be making $200 extra in that bank account. So I am going to put that in a high yield savings account. That's something that you could do too if you were to choose to do that. But I just want you to make sure, I want you to keep in mind that that money is still coming out and you still have to pay Uncle Sam at the end of the year or quarterly. That's still money that's coming out of your business. So please, please do your best to make sure that you are at least dividing your personal bank account from your business bank account. And then when you take your business bank account, if you're not good with allocating and you just need something to help organize you for the year, take a percentage of that and have it funnel automatically into a sub account. And that will be for your taxes at the end of your year or quarterly. Okay, so common mistakes with this, we're going to go over this, is paying for unused subscriptions. Yes, it does add up. So cut that out. Overspending on your space or your decor. I see that happen pretty often. And then not saving ahead for taxes, which is something that I just got through talking about. That's a big one. Ways that you can fix it is obviously auditing your subscriptions quarterly, just making sure that you're not paying out for things you're not actually using. Automate and especially these days with AI being integrated in so many things, we get overly excited and we're like, well, maybe I'll use this tool and it'll help me. Just make sure you're going through everything and that you're not paying for something. And then all of a sudden there's an annual fee that comes in and you're hit with another one and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this. Or worse, you're paying for it and you don't even realize it because it's just slowly coming out of that bank account or on your credit card. And then automate your reports and your bookkeeping. So that's something also that you can do, QuickBooks or whatever it is that you're using. That's what I use. But, they have AI as well where you can automate those reports. So I like to look at my P&L report on a quarterly basis. I know not everyone likes to do that. They usually like to print it out at the end of the year, but I just want to see quarter over quarter, how is everything coming along and what trends am I catching and where can I forecast for the following year? And I realized that there are a lot of things that can change year over year, but this just helps me and my brain to plan ahead. And then move 25 to 30, move about 30% of your profits into a separate tax account. That's what I was kind of saying before. 30%, me, that's personally what I like to do. But, I'm a safety first kind of gal. And if there's any money left over, then great. I get to take that money and then again, just put it into my high yield savings account and just let that money accrue. And then I can save it on reserve for emergencies, or I can put it in there for something that I want to invest into, or if I want to go to, a big costly event or something, then I can put that money toward it. So it's freedom. That's what I always think of it as. The key message in all this is that overhead doesn't need to scream. It quietly drains your profit. So track it before it gets out of hand. Stay on top of it. Look at where those expenses are going into. Are those margins making sense for you? Is that percentage of your income actually being allocated into it, or are you way over? And how can you change that? Okay, the fourth cup that we want to talk about is I put events and travel into a separate category here because this is actually something that a lot of hairstylists I talk to end up putting a lot of their money into. These are your growth costs. It's important to have this because these are the things that help you build momentum in your business as well. There's something to be said about our energy. There's something to be said about our learning. It's absolutely important to have it ongoing. But can be anything from education to shows and experiences that help you grow. But you need to be strategic about it because those are pretty big costs that can actually end up overweighing, again, taking away from some areas where it really needs to be allocated within your business. So I already mentioned hair shows and classes. There's everything that goes around that though. There's the travel, the hotel, the meals. And then of course, we've got these creative shoots that we do, content creation, all that stuff, that could be coaching or membership programs, mentorship programs that you are involved in or that you're paying for. So the rule of thumb with this is I like to keep that under 8% of my annual revenue. Don't go over 10% is what I would say that's the line in the sand. That really is indicative of how much money that you're bringing into the business, right? So the more money you bring in, then the more you have toward that spending. But if it's not there, don't put your head in the sand and pretend that it's not a problem. This should be an empowering thing. And I really want you to look at this as a way that you can both be smarter with the money that you're already making, but you can also have that money generate and grow without your hands on it. And nowhere in this was I saying that someone else is doing this for you. Like this is all stuff that you can do yourself. The only strategy in this is organization, and the rest of it just kind of starts to fall into place. And if you use it, then you're not going to lose it. This is going to be part of your system, your ecosystem within your business. So common mistakes for this might be calling everything a write-off. I mean, how many times do we make jokes about it, but it's kind of true. We make jokes about it because it's true. So when it's not income producing, we want to be very careful about that. And that is something that we could probably put in line of strategic spending. It always makes me think about, that episode of Schitt's Creek, of course, but I'm sure everyone thinks about that when it comes to write-offs.
So that's a write-off.
That's a write-off?
Yeah.
Do you even know what a write-off is?
Yeah. It's when you buy something for your business and the government pays you back for it.
Oh, and who pays for it?
Nobody. You write it off.
Another one could be booking classes without a plan to apply what you learn. It's really great to go to a technical class, and I think it's super important. So I'm never, ever going to say bad things about taking a technical class, but it's so important that if you're going to take a technical class, how is that going to be applied to your business? And how are you going to take what you learned and turn that into money? So if this is something that, let's say you're a balayage expert and that part of your business is thriving. Is there a part of your business where you notice that there's kind of a leak or that is missing? Take a class on that. Sidebar the balayage class. If you're already excelling in balayage, you don't need to put more into that. So there are points where, yes, you should put your efforts into the things that are growing, but there are also parts of it when you've grown to the point that you can now start to diversify. So if I were to think about a rule of thumb for myself, if I were getting most of my business from balayage and I were just feeling, I want to take a temperature check with myself. If I realize that I'm starting to just get burnt out on the repetitive motions, or I want to find other ways that I can generate income for my business, then I want to make sure that I'm putting that into something like what is going to be low cost, high value, and it's going to also add income to my business that is not going to make me have to put more money up front. And that's where I would put, I would take a little log off the fire and start another fire. I don't know. The analogies are going crazy right now. Anyway, so that's something that I really want you to think about. Again, going back into those common mistakes, we were talking about, calling everything a write-off, booking classes. Oh, and then traveling without calculating the real cost. Yes, I said it. I'm going to say it again. When you're traveling and you're not actually calculating that as what the real cost of it is, that can be something that can go backwards in your business as well. So it's really easy to just spread it out over time. And you're like, oh, I bought my flight in January and then I got my hotel room in February. And then, I'm on the trip and it's March and I'm paying for so-and-so's dinner and I'm schmoozing or whatever. So all of that stuff adds up. Make sure that you're looking at that and saying, okay, I spent all of this for this. And did I make enough from this to be able to justify or at least put back into that? And did that produce money in the end? Okay, so ways that you can fix this, very, very easy. Some of it comes down to a mindset. Some of it is just a little bit of tracking. But ways that you can fix it is setting an annual education budget. I know it's not fun. I get it. But it is a way, like if you really want to grow your business, or if you want to open a salon, you want to grow your salon, you want to grow your team, or if you just want to increase your profits, please do this. And then turn trips into content or education so that you can repurpose. And that's something that I definitely like to do. One of the things, like there's a couple stylists that do this, and I think this is such a smart way of doing it, is if you're going to go attend a class, and there are ways that you can actually create content with other people or go as a guest in another salon. If you're also an educator yourself and you go to teach a class on day 1, but then on day 2, you can record that content and then you could turn that into a digital form. That's another really smart way of doing that as well. Or setting up a photo shoot or doing a collaboration with another stylist. So those are ways that I like to turn that trip into more than just what the classes that I'm going for or the show that I'm going to. So yeah, that's ways that you can kind of tweak that a little bit. And then ask before you spend, will this money visibly make impact for me? What do I want to accomplish with this? And is it going to be enough for me to justify doing it right now? Or is there something else that will actually help me bring more profit in? And a lot of times it's like when you take a look at that bottom line, did it make enough? Did you make enough at the end of that year that made you feel like all that effort was worth it? And if you say no, then all you have to do is just tweak those things for the following year. So the key message here is that education is obviously powerful, but only if it's strategic. Inspiration without action is just an expense. And that expense, it can be an expensive motivation, sure, but that expense can end up costing us more than our pride, more than our business. It can take more than just like a tiny tweak to change it. It could take years to offset that. And then the fifth thing I want to talk about at the very end of all this, what we want to see the most of is profit. So that's that fifth glass cup at the bottom. That's our profit. That's what's left. And where should that go? This is what remains after all of the buckets are filled. This is your true business health indicator. And profit is not your paycheck. It's what's available to pay yourself, set aside for taxes and reinvest. So the recommendation for that, we've already kind of gone over this. I said 30% for taxes. You can get wild and do 25 to 30%, but I like to do 30. And then you've got 10% for your emergency reserves. That's if something, heaven forbid, breaks down, like literally in the summertime, my AC was just not working for some weird reason. And I had to have somebody come in and take a look at it. And if I didn't have that extra money in there, I'd feel stressed out about it. But No, I didn't have to because I already had the emergency reserves. You want about 10 to 15% to reinvest in your education, your marketing, and your tools. So spend wisely, my friends. And then 45 to 55% of that, yes, please pay yourself. That's your personal pay. So whether that means that you are directly paying yourself from behind the chair and you're keeping the business profit separate, or if you're doing a draw, or if you're doing a hybrid between, just make sure that you're not going over that amount because, again, that amount is coming from somewhere else. And then an example of this is that if your salon brings in, let's say, $6,000 a week, and you keep 50% of that after expenses, that's $3,000 profit. $900 went to your taxes, $300 to your reserves, $300 to reinvest, and then $1,500 to pay yourself. Profit isn't an accident. It's what's left when you make every dollar earn its place. And I want you to embed that in your brain and think about that as you're planning for your following year. So just to recap, we're just following your money from top to bottom. That waterfall, I want you to think about that waterfall and where it's being spent, how much of each cup is allocated for it, from what it costs to create the art to what it takes to fill your chair, to the bills that keep the lights on and the trips and the classes that expand your skills. What's left for your freedom, your profit? Take a look at last month's income, write it down. What did you make? What did you spend on supplies, clients, overhead, education? See what's left. That's your true profit. Find one bucket that's leaking. Maybe it's your product waste or your unused subscriptions, or maybe you're not tracking your color costs or something. And then fix that one thing this month. You don't have to make more money or to feel secure. You have to just understand where it's going. And then once you see that flow clearly, you can control it. This one step is building your business. And that was what pays you back in the end. It's your hard work is what's being poured into. So I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I want to encourage you to dream big, set goals, take action. Make sure you hang out with me next week. We got another juicy one that we're going to be talking about, and I'll talk with you very soon.